Okay, so today I'm going to show you guys how to replace the standard knob on a raw Bariach lock with this electronic smart lock, and it's really easy to do, and I'll show you the process. So the first thing we're going to do is take off the existing knob and protective cover. So we're going to do that by removing the set screw, which is down below here. Okay, there's a screw here, and we're going to take it out. In my case, it's a 2.5mm Allen. It may be different depending on your exact situation, but that's what mine is. Just slide it off, and then you can see the exposed lock here. Next thing we're going to do is take the knob off. Okay, that uses a 2mm Allen, and let's look over here from the side so you can see the screw. Okay, so right there, there's a small set screw, and we're going to take that off. So we're going to take the 2.5mm Allen. This is actually the same one that comes with the smart lock, and yours might be a little bit different, but usually they all work the same basic way. Okay, so we're taking the screw out, take it out, pull the knob off. Okay, done with that step. Now we're going to use this 3D printed adapter, which enables you to use the smart lock. Okay, basically this is a round shaft. The lock needs something with a flat on it to be able to turn it. So now we're going to show how that works. So this is 3D printed. If you need this, I can supply it. So just slide this on to where the knob used to be. Okay, it's a little bit of a tight fit, but a little bit of force it'll go in. Okay, you do need to make sure that the hole on the side is aligned with the hole in the plastic, because you're going to be putting a screw in there. Okay, so it's going to go right there. All right, so now we're going to take 2 set screws. Okay, you can do this with 1 set screw. I'm doing it with 2 because I want this flat portion of the set screw to be on the outside, because it's going to overlap with the plastic, and that's what's going to make sure everything turns together. So basically the width of this part is 10mm. I'm going to use a 6mm M4 set screw along with a 4mm one coming in from both sides, and that way it'll be flush with the plastic. You could potentially use one single 10mm one, but because most set screws have a pointy end, I prefer that I have a flat end on the side of the plastic. Okay, so let's start with one coming from this side. Oops, I'm using the wrong tool, and I got the right tool. So you need a 2mm Allen, the same one that you just used to remove the knob. This is the one that comes with the tool. Okay, with the lock, sorry. Okay. So I'm going to tighten that. You're not really tightening, you're just basically going into the thread. And you want to make sure that that screw is pretty much flush with the plastic. It can't stick out, because otherwise it's not going to fit into the smart lock. You want it exactly flush, and then I'm going to come from the other side with the other one, which this is the 4mm one. Okay, so now I'm coming from the other side of the hole. Okay, and same thing here. They'll basically end up hitting each other because they're exactly 10mm, the combination of the two. Okay, all right. Okay, so now you can see it's flusher. You don't want it sticking out. This one I'm going to go on a little bit more, because I think there we go. Okay, so now you can see the screw is flush here. Okay, and the other one is flush over here. Now they're basically locked together. So now if this rotates, the inner shaft will also rotate. Okay, so that's the adapter. Now we're going to go ahead and put the lock on. This is the smart lock again. Okay, so you can see this interface is going to match with this profile here. You do have to get this oriented so this the flat on the inner part of the mechanism matches with the flat here. So if you need to rotate it to get in that position, okay, do this without the batteries in it, because you don't want this thing moving all of a sudden while you're installing it. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and slide it on, make sure that's vertical to match the orientation of that, and then note the orientation of this. There's also 3 screws here that we're going to end up tightening that are going to lock to the cylinder. Okay, you have 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, this is going to be pointing up, basically, the one on the top. So we're going to slide that on. You have to wiggle it a little bit till you get in position. Again, make sure this is exactly vertical. Or now this twisted a little bit, so I need to get this straight. It's a little bit. Okay, let's get this oriented. It's a little bit sensitive. You got to get the position just right. There there you go. So now it's slid all the way in. Okay, so you want to kind of push hard against this as you're tightening these 3 screws. So again, you're using this 2mm Allen key. It has a ball end. It's helpful because this handle is kind of in the way. So to get started, I use the ball end. Okay, you can start with the top one. Doesn't really matter the exact order, but okay, it's in there. I'm turning it. And the handle is a little bit in the way, so it's a little bit annoying. But all right, and you have to make sure you're pushing hard on this as well, so it doesn't lose its position. It's actually coming from this side. It's a little bit easier, I think. Okay. Actually, now that I think about it, it's probably easier to start with the side ones because these ones are easier to get to, and then it won't move on you while you're in the middle. So let's start with the side one over here. Okay. And I'm using the ball end initially, just because it's kind of close to the door as well. If you have more professional tools, you can do this as well. I'm going to loosen this again. I think it was a little bit too tight. I'm not in the right position just yet. The key thing is having kind of firm pressure on it. There you go. Okay, so now it's pushed all the way, and you can see it's kind of parallel to the door. So I'm going to start with this inner one over here. Okay, and I'm pushing, keeping it flat as I'm tightening it. Okay, now it's got initially tight. I'm going to do the opposite side. So over here, this other one. Okay. Hold on, make sure I'm in the right spot. There we go. And push on it as you're tightening it so the thing doesn't lose its position. Okay, now it's snug. Now we'll do the top one over here. Okay, make sure you're actually in the where the screw is. Okay, I think I'm in there now. Okay, now I'm going to tighten it. I'm going to go in this other orientation so I can snug them down a little more firmly. So I'm going to start over here again from the side. Okay, again pushing on there, make sure it doesn't move on you. Okay, you don't want to overdo it because you don't want to strip the head, obviously. That one's good. I'm going to do this other one. Okay, there you go. Now we're on the screw. Again, tighten. Just enough so it's snug. You don't want to overdo it because you'll strip anything. And finally, we'll do the top one. Okay. Okay, now it's all the way in. Tighten it. I'm going to do a little bit more. It felt like it go a tiny bit further. Okay. There we go. It's inside. Okay, that feels pretty good to me. Make sure it's nice and snug and not going to slip out on you. Okay, so that's that part. Now the final step is there's this cosmetic cover here, okay? This is basically just to cover the gap between here and the door because you might have a gap depending on the cylinder position. It's purely cosmetic. There's a small screw over here. It uses a different Allen. It uses this small one, which is a 1.2mm Allen, which comes with a lock as well. So I point this downward so you don't see it, just so it looks best visually. Slide it on all the way against the door. And then come from below. And as you're pushing against the door, just go ahead and tighten the screw. And you don't need to go too crazy because it just basically, ends up flexing the plastic. Just make sure it's secure here, and you're good to go. So you can try it now manually. This is just to show you that this is the manual way of unlocking the door. Because I didn't actually enable the electronic functionality just yet. Again, you can just rotate it manually. Make sure everything's moving smoothly. If it's not moving smoothly manually, it means something may be not ideal in the mechanism. You might need to adjust something in the actual raw Bariach mechanism. Sometimes things get tilted a little bit and it doesn't move smoothly. But just make sure it feels relatively smooth to lock and unlock, and you should be good to go. And that's all there is to the manual setup of installing it. In the next video, I'll show you how to set up the app and all the other functionality.